I never thought I'd be that guy. You know, the one telling some stranger on the internet about how his whole world came crashing down because of betrayal. But here I am, 40 years old, sitting alone at my kitchen table, typing this out because I don't know what else to do. Maybe putting it into words will help me make sense of it all. Or maybe I'm just trying to keep myself from falling apart. My wife, ex-wife, I guess I should say now, her name's Lauren. We met in college. She was the kind of girl who could light up a room just by walking into it. Smart, funny, driven. I felt like the luckiest man alive when she agreed to marry me. We built a life together, 15 years of marriage, 2 kids, a home in the suburbs, cookouts with friends, vacations to the coast. From the outside, we were the picture of stability. But inside, well, I see now there were cracks forming long before everything shattered. The story starts about a year ago. I had no idea at the time, of course. Hindsight's a cruel thing. Our neighbor, Mark, moved in next door after a messy divorce of his own. He seemed like a decent enough guy, early 40s, friendly, always out in his yard working on something. Lauren baked him a batch of cookies the day he moved in, the kind of neighborly thing she always loved to do. I thought nothing of it. We invited him over for dinner once or twice, chatted over the fence about the weather, that sort of thing. But looking back, it was the little things that should have tipped me off. The way she'd linger at the window when Mark was outside mowing his lawn. The casual way she'd mention him in conversation. Too casual, now that I think about it. How she suddenly cared a lot more about how the garden looked, or whether the siding needed washing, or if the mailbox was crooked. I was blind. Completely blind. Things really started to unravel one Saturday afternoon. I remember it like it was yesterday. I was in the garage, working on my car, when my son ran up to me, he's 8, and asked if he could go next door. I asked why, and he said, "Mommy's over there with Mr. Mark. They're looking at his new puppy." My heart sank a little, but I brushed it off. I mean, what's wrong with looking at a neighbor's puppy, right? But that sinking feeling stuck with me. Over the next few weeks, I started noticing more. Lauren would disappear for stretches of time and come back with flimsy explanations. "I went for a walk," or "I stopped to chat with Sarah up the street." Except Sarah had moved away months ago. I started checking. God help me, I started checking. Her texts, her emails. She deleted entire conversations. That was the first real red flag I couldn't ignore. Then came the night that changed everything. A Thursday. I had to work late, and when I came home, the house was quiet. Too quiet. The kids were asleep. I went to our room, empty. I checked the backyard, nothing. And then, like some cliché out of a bad movie, I glanced over the fence. There they were. Lauren and Mark, standing too close, whispering, laughing in that way people do when they think no one's watching. I froze. I didn't confront them. I couldn't. I just stood there in the shadows, heart pounding in my chest, feeling like the ground had opened up beneath me. That was the first night I didn't sleep. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering how the hell we got here. Wondering if it was my fault. Did I stop paying attention? Did I let the spark die? The next morning, I tried to act normal. Made the kids breakfast, kissed them goodbye as they went off to school. But inside, I was unraveling. I watched Lauren like a hawk. Every word she said felt like a lie. Every smile felt forced. And the worst part? She was still so familiar. The woman I had built my life with, and yet, suddenly a stranger. I thought maybe I was overreacting. Maybe I was being paranoid. But then came the second blow. A friend of mine, someone I trusted, pulled me aside one evening and said he'd seen Lauren and Mark together. At a bar. Out of town. Far enough that they thought no one would recognize them. That's when I knew. Knew I wasn't crazy. Knew my world was about to come crashing down. And so began the worst chapter of my life. I didn't confront her right away. I couldn't. I needed proof. I needed to be sure. And God help me, I didn't want it to be true. I hoped, prayed, that somehow this was a misunderstanding. That I was wrong. But deep down I knew. That's where I'll leave this part of the story. The beginning of the end. The moment I stopped being blind and started seeing the truth, no matter how much it hurt. After that night, when my friend confirmed what I had feared, something inside me changed. I wasn't just hurt anymore, I was obsessed. I needed to know everything. The who, the when, the how long. I needed the ugly truth, no matter how much it would destroy me. I started small. I checked Lauren's phone when she left it charging on the nightstand. She was smarter than I gave her credit for. The messages were gone, all of them. Like she'd wiped the slate clean. But I did find something she missed. A calendar event. Lunch with M. No details, no location. Just that letter. M. Mark. Who else could it be? The next day I told my boss I needed some time off. I wasn't in any shape to work anyway. I spent the time watching, waiting, tracking Lauren's routines. It felt disgusting. Like I'd become someone else. Someone I wouldn't have recognized 6 months earlier. But I couldn't stop. I had to know. One afternoon, I followed her. She left after lunch, said she was going to run errands. I stayed back at first, gave her a head start, then got in my truck and tailed her at a distance. My heart pounded the whole time, hands gripping the steering wheel like I was hanging on to the last shred of my sanity. She didn't go to the grocery store. She didn't go to Target like she said she would. She drove across town to a small park. And there he was, Mark, waiting by a bench, like it was the most natural thing in the world. She got out of the car, and they hugged. Not a quick, friendly hug. The kind that lingers. The kind that says I've missed you. I felt sick. Actually sick. I had to pull over, head between my knees, trying to catch my breath. I could have gone over there, made a scene. But I didn't. I just watched. Watched as they walked off together, disappearing down a trail like some happy couple without a care in the world. That night, I didn't say anything. I couldn't. I didn't have the strength. But I knew now, really knew, that what we had was broken. I started looking back on every conversation, every fight, every quiet evening where I thought we were okay. It was like rewinding a movie and realizing you missed all the signs the first time through. Then came the first big fight. A few nights later, Lauren came home late, too late for whatever excuse she tried to offer. And I snapped. I couldn't hold it in anymore. I asked her outright, "Are you seeing him? Are you cheating on me?" She denied it. Of course she did. Got defensive. Accused me of not trusting her, of trying to control her. And maybe I was. Maybe I was losing my grip. But I knew the truth, and the lies only made it worse. The fight was ugly. We said things I wish I could take back. She stormed out. Said she needed space. I didn't stop her. That night, I sat alone in the dark, staring at the door, hoping she'd come back. Hoping she'd tell me I was wrong. But she didn't. And that's when the next twist hit me like a freight train. Around midnight, my phone buzzed. An unknown number. A text, "You deserve to know. They've been meeting at the motel off Route 6. Room 12. That was it. No name. No follow-up. Just that. I stared at the screen, heart racing. Was this some cruel joke? But deep down, I knew it wasn't. I didn't sleep that night. I sat there, phone in hand, replaying everything over and over in my mind. The text, the park, the hugs, the lies. The gut feeling I'd ignored for too long. The next day, I made a decision. I was done waiting for the truth to come to me. I was going to get it myself. The morning after that anonymous text, I sat in my truck across from the motel off Route 6. My hands were shaking so bad, I could barely hold my coffee. I didn't want to be there. God, I didn't want to see what I knew I'd see. But I had to. I needed the truth laid bare. No more wondering, no more lies. I sat there for what felt like hours, watching the parking lot, every car that pulled in making my stomach twist into knots. And then, just past noon, I saw it, Lauren's car. She pulled in, parked near the back. And right behind her, Mark's truck. I could have stormed over right then, pounded on that motel room door, but I didn't. I froze. I watched as they both got out, glanced around like they were checking if anyone saw them, but of course, they didn't look hard enough. And then, they disappeared into room 12. That was it. That was the moment something in me broke. I don't even remember making the decision. I just found myself out of the truck, crossing the lot, heart pounding so loud I could barely hear my own thoughts. I stood outside that door, fists raised, and for a second I hesitated. Because I knew, once I knocked, there was no going back. But I knocked. Hard. Loud. The kind of knock that makes your blood run cold if you're on the other side. There was a pause, then I heard Mark's voice, muffled, nervous. "Who is it?" I didn't answer. I just kept knocking. And then Lauren opened the door, just a crack, saw me standing there, and her face went white, like she'd seen a ghost. Mark appeared behind her, pulling a shirt over his head, looking like he wanted to disappear into the floor. "What are you doing here?" she stammered. I didn't even have words. I just stared at them, the betrayal so thick in the air I felt like I couldn't breathe. And then I laughed, this bitter, broken laugh, because it was so absurd. The woman I'd built a life with, standing half-dressed in a motel room with the neighbor I'd trusted. "You lied to me," I finally said. "All this time. You lied to my face." She started crying, trying to explain, trying to say it wasn't what it looked like, as if that line would work. Mark stood there like a coward, not saying a word, just looking at the floor. I walked away. I had nothing left to say. I went home, packed a bag, and left. I didn't know where I was going. I just knew I couldn't be in that house, in that neighborhood near them. That night, she called me. Over and over. I didn't answer. I couldn't. The woman I thought I knew was gone, and in her place was a stranger who had burned everything we had to the ground. And here's the twist, the part one didn't see coming. The next day, Mark's wife, his ex-wife, I thought, showed up at my door. Turns out they weren't divorced at all. They were separated, working on things quietly, trying to patch up their marriage. And Lauren had known. She'd known, and she'd lied about that too. We sat at my kitchen table, two strangers bound by the same betrayal, and shared the horrible details of what we'd both discovered. It was surreal. I felt like I was living someone else's life. And that was just the start of the fallout. That night, after Mark's wife, let's call her Emily, and I sat at my kitchen table, we both just kind of stared at each other, shell-shocked. Two broken people, betrayed by the ones we loved most. We talked for hours. The pain, the confusion, the sheer anger, it all came pouring out. And somewhere between the tears and the bitter laughs, an idea took shape. Neither of us said it outright at first, but it was there. This unspoken understanding that we couldn't just let them get away with it. We couldn't stand by while they burned down our lives and walked off into the sunset. We wanted them to feel what we felt. Emily was the one who finally put it into words. "What if we turned the tables?" she said quietly. "What if we showed them what betrayal really feels like?" I hesitated. I wasn't sure if it was the right thing to do. But the more we talked, the more it made sense. This wasn't about being petty. It was about making them face the consequences of what they'd done, forcing them to see the damage they caused. So we came up with a plan. We decided to let Lauren and Mark believe they were free to be together. No more fights, no more accusations. We'd act like we were moving on. And while they were busy building their fantasy, we'd build something of our own: strength, independence, and maybe, just maybe, a bond they couldn't break. We started small. Emily and I began spending time together, not in some fake, showy way, but genuinely. We went for coffee, took walks, leaned on each other. It felt good to be around someone who understood. Someone who wasn't going to lie to my face. The kids even started getting along, her two and my two, like we were this strange little patchwork family. Meanwhile, Lauren and Mark fell right into the trap. They thought they'd won. They started being more open, going out together, showing up at neighborhood events as a couple. It was sickening to watch, but Emily and I kept our cool. Then we started planting seeds. Subtle things. Emily mentioned in passing to one of Mark's coworkers how she and I had grown close. I let it slip to a mutual friend that Emily had been a rock for me through all this, and how grateful I was for her support. Word got around fast, faster than we expected. It didn't take long before Lauren started getting suspicious. The smile she used to flash at Mark when she thought no one was looking started fading. I caught her watching me and Emily at a block party, her eyes narrowed, lips tight. Mark, for his part, started getting cagey with Emily, asking where she was going, who she was with. The best part? Emily and I weren't faking it anymore. Somewhere along the way, all those late-night talks, shared tears, and quiet moments turned real. We weren't pretending to care about each other to make them jealous. We did care. And it drove Lauren and Mark absolutely crazy. Lauren tried to reach out, of course. Suddenly she wanted to talk, to work on things. She said she missed me, that she'd made a mistake. But I was done. I saw through it. She didn't miss me. She missed the life she'd thrown away, the security, the image. Mark started falling apart too. Emily told me how he was staying out late, drinking more, lashing out at her in frustration when she wouldn't play along with his guilt trips. And while their world crumbled, mine started to feel solid again. Emily and I found strength in each other. We weren't rushing into anything. We both had wounds to heal, but we weren't broken anymore. Not in the way Lauren and Mark were. I guess the twist of it all is this. We thought we were setting out for revenge. But in the end, we didn't have to lift a finger. Lauren and Mark destroyed themselves. All Emily and I did was survive. And in doing that, we found something neither of us expected: hope. For a while, things seemed like they had settled, at least on the surface. Emily and I kept focusing on ourselves, on healing, on finding something steady again. But underneath, the tension between Mark and me was like a ticking time bomb. I saw him almost every day. We lived next door to each other, after all, and every time our paths crossed, I could feel the heat rising in my chest. At first, we both avoided it. I think maybe we were both afraid of what would happen if we actually let all that anger out. But it was inevitable. It was always going to come to this. It happened on a Saturday afternoon. The kids were at Emily's parents' house, and I was out in the yard, fixing a broken fence panel. I heard Mark's truck pull into his driveway, and out of the corner of my eye I saw him get out, slam the door harder than necessary, and head toward his house. I didn't say anything. I kept my head down, focused on my work. But then I heard his voice, loud enough that it was meant for me to hear. "Playing house with my wife now," he said, his tone dripping with bitterness. I froze. Slowly, I straightened up and turned to face him. "You've got a lot of nerve," I said, my voice low, trying to keep my cool. He laughed, this hollow, bitter sound. You think you're any better than me? You think she actually cares about you? You're just her rebound. That was it. The final spark. I dropped the hammer I'd been holding and walked straight toward him. You ruined your own life, I said through clenched teeth. Don't you dare put this on Emily. Or on me. And then he shoved me. Hard. I stumbled back, caught myself, and without thinking, I lunged at him. Fist connected with jaw, and we were on the ground, swinging, cursing, years of friendship and neighborly small talk shattered in an instant. We brawled right there between our houses, two grown men, flailing like idiots, driven by hurt and betrayal and all the things we couldn't say with words. I don't even know how long it lasted. A minute? 5? It felt like forever. We both ended up bloody, breathing hard, hands shaking. I stood over him, fists clenched, heart pounding so loud I couldn't hear anything else. And then I saw the look in his eyes, not anger anymore, but defeat. Pure, hollow defeat. And in that moment, I realized I wasn't angry at him. Not really. I was angry at myself, at Lauren, at the whole damn mess. Emily came running over, shouting for us to stop. She got between us, tears in her eyes, begging us to let it go. And I did. I stepped back, wiped the blood from my mouth, and walked away. I didn't look back. Mark and I never spoke again after that. We coexisted, like ghosts, passing each other in silence. The fight didn't fix anything, but maybe it was what we needed. Maybe we both just had to hit bottom before we could start to climb out. After the fight, everything shifted. There was no going back. Not to the marriage I had with Lauren, not to the friendship I'd once had with Mark, not even to the man I was before all this happened. And strangely, as bruised and broken as I felt in those first days after the brawl, I also felt free. Emily and I gave each other space for a little while. We both needed it, needed time to breathe and process everything. But we stayed in touch, checked in, helped each other when things came up. And gradually, that bond we'd built, that real bond, started to feel like something solid, something worth holding on to. I threw myself into work. I got promoted not long after, something I'd been overlooked for during all the chaos in my personal life. Funny how clearing out the wreckage made room for new things. I started running again, too, something I hadn't done in years. Emily and I even signed up for a charity 5K together. Little by little, I felt stronger. Not just physically, but inside. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was living. Emily's life started picking up too. She went back to school, something she'd always wanted but had put on hold during her marriage. Her confidence came back. I could see it in the way she carried herself, in the way she laughed again, a real, unguarded laugh that wasn't forced or hiding sadness. And Lauren and Mark? They fell apart. Fast. It didn't take long before their romance started to show cracks. Without the thrill of sneaking around, without the excitement of forbidden meetings, they were left with the reality of what they'd done, and it wasn't pretty. Mark started drinking more. He lost his job not long after. Too many missed days, too many late arrivals. I heard about it through the neighborhood grapevine, though I never asked. Lauren tried to act like she was fine, but I saw through it. The forced smiles at school events, the way she avoided my gaze, the night she came home late looking exhausted and defeated. Whatever she thought she was getting with Mark, it wasn't what she'd imagined. And the people around us? They noticed too. Friends who'd quietly distanced themselves from Lauren during the affair started reaching out to me again. Even my own parents, who'd always tried to stay neutral, told me how proud they were of how I'd handled everything, how I hadn't let bitterness consume me. One day, months after the fight, Lauren actually called me. Said she wanted to talk. Said she missed what we had. that she realized now how much she'd thrown away. I listened. I let her say what she needed to say. And then I told her the truth. I didn't hate her. But I didn't love her anymore either. That part of me was gone. And I was okay with that. Emily and I didn't rush anything. We didn't jump into a relationship just because of what we'd been through. But over time, what started as two people picking up the pieces became something steady. Something good. We took the kids on joint outings, just as friends at first, and before long, it felt natural, like we were building a new kind of family from the ashes of the old one. Meanwhile, Lauren and Mark drifted further into their mess. They fought. They broke up, got back together, fought again. I heard through the grapevine that Mark moved out of his house entirely, then back in, then out again. Lauren tried to date someone new, but it didn't last. Whatever they'd been chasing in each other was gone. And me? I'd never felt more at peace. The storm had passed, and somehow, I'd come out stronger. The thing about betrayal is that it changes you. At first, I hated that. I hated who I became in those dark months, angry, suspicious, lost. But over time, I started to see that the change wasn't all bad. It stripped away the lies, the illusions I'd been clinging to, and forced me to see life as it really was. A year passed. 1 year since that awful day at the motel, since the fight, since everything shattered. And you know what? Life got good. Really good. Emily and I, we took our time, built something real and honest. We weren't in a rush. We both had scars, and we both respected those scars. But we were happy, not the kind of happy that comes from pretending everything's perfect, but the kind that comes from knowing you've survived the worst and found something worth holding on to. We blended our families slowly. The kids, they were the best part of all this. Watching them form new friendships, seeing them laugh together, made everything we'd been through feel worth it in a strange way. There were rough patches, of course there were, but we navigated them together. As a team. I started doing things I'd put off for years. I took a woodworking class. I went camping with my son, just the two of us, under the stars. I finally fixed up that old motorcycle in the garage. My life stopped being about what I'd lost, and became about what I could build. And Lauren? Mark? Their worlds kept unraveling. Mark moved away, packed up in the middle of the night, no goodbyes. I heard he took a job 2 states over, fresh start, or so he thought. Lauren tried to pick up the pieces, but it was clear even to her that she was standing in the wreckage of choices she couldn't undo. She reached out a few times, texts, emails, but I didn't respond anymore. There was nothing left to say. The last time I saw her was at a school event. Our kids were both in the same play. She sat across the auditorium, looking small, looking tired. Our eyes met once, just for a second. And in that moment, I felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, no longing. Just peace. She gave me a small, sad smile, and I nodded. And that was it. The end of our story. Emily and I? We're still going strong. We're not rushing labels, not forcing anything. Just two people who found each other in the wreckage and decided to build something better. We still talk late into the night, still laugh over stupid things, still marvel at how far we've come. If there's one thing I've learned from all of this, it's this: betrayal doesn't have to define you. It'll leave a mark, sure, but it can also be the thing that sets you free, that pushes you to find your strength, your truth, your future. And that's exactly what I did.